When Samantha and Ethan first laid eyes on the sprawling Victorian mansion, it was love at first sight. Hidden behind a veil of towering oaks and surrounded by an overgrown garden, the house exuded an eerie charm. Its peeling paint and boarded windows seemed to whisper promises of a new beginning, a place to create their shared dreams. Newlyweds, eager to escape the suffocating bustle of city life, they were drawn to its solitude and the romantic notion of breathing life back into the decrepit structure. "Just imagine," Samantha had said, clutching Ethan's arm. "We'll fix it up. Make it ours." Ethan had smiled, picturing the transformation, a fresh coat of paint, new windows, the laughter of future children echoing through its halls. It was an adventure, a testament to their love and determination. But as they signed the papers, the realtor's smile had faltered ever so slightly. "It's got a lot of character," she'd said, her eyes darting briefly toward the house. Samantha had laughed, brushing off the hesitation as part of the charm. They were young, in love, and ready to take on anything. Their excitement carried them through the first few days. They scrubbed years of grime from the walls, tore up rotting carpets, and discovered intricate woodwork beneath layers of paint. Yet, as night fell and the house settled into its nocturnal quiet, Samantha began to notice something unusual. A faint whispering sound. At first, she thought it was the wind slipping through cracks in the old structure. But the sound wasn't random. It had a cadence, an unsettling rhythm, as though someone were speaking just beyond her comprehension. She dismissed it, blaming exhaustion and her overactive imagination. But as the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew more distinct. Lying in bed, she could almost make out words, phrases that seemed to echo her own thoughts. Fears she hadn't voiced, memories she hadn't revisited in years. Her unease grew, but Ethan was unconcerned. "Old houses make noises, Sam," he said one night as they lay in bed. "It's just settling. Or maybe it's the pipes." But Samantha wasn't convinced. The whispers weren't random creaks or groans. They felt alive, intentional. And as the days wore on, the house began to change. Subtle at first, a door that wouldn't open one day but swung freely the next, items she swore she'd left in one place appearing in another. The air felt heavier, charged with an unseen tension. One afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, Samantha stumbled upon an old leather-bound journal. The cover was cracked and worn, the pages yellowed with age. Flipping through it, she realized it belonged to a woman named Eleanor, a previous occupant of the house. Eleanor's handwriting was neat but frantic, her words recounting a slow descent into madness. "The house listens," one entry read. "It knows my fears, my regrets. It speaks them back to me in whispers that burrow into my soul." Samantha's breath hitched as she read. Eleanor's experiences mirrored her own. The whispers, the shifting spaces, the oppressive atmosphere. The final entry sent a chill down her spine. "I can't tell what's real anymore. The house is alive, and it won't let me leave." She showed the journal to Ethan that evening, her hands trembling. He read it silently, his brow furrowing. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but strained. "It's just a story, Sam. Maybe she was sick. People write strange things when they're not well." But the seed of doubt had been planted. That night, Ethan heard the whispers for the first time. They came to him in the dead of night, a low murmur that seemed to seep from the walls. At first, he thought it was Samantha, but when he turned to wake her, he found her fast asleep. The whispers grew louder, clearer, speaking of his deepest insecurities and fears. His failure to protect Samantha, his doubts about their marriage, his fear of being trapped in this crumbling house. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the whispers gnawing at his mind. As days turned into nights, the house's malevolence became undeniable. The whispers transformed into screams, guttural and tormented, echoing through the empty halls. Shadowy figures flickered in the corners of their vision, darting away when they turned to look. The walls seemed to pulse, alive with a sinister energy. Samantha and Ethan began to turn on each other, their patience fraying under the house's influence. Arguments erupted over trivial matters, their words laced with venom they didn't recognize as their own. Desperate for answers, Samantha delved deeper into the journal, piecing together the house's dark history. Every occupant had suffered a similar fate: paranoia, madness, and ultimately disappearance. She uncovered old newspaper clippings about the house's original owner, a reclusive man named Victor Holloway. Rumors swirled about his experiments with the occult, his obsession with immortality. One article mentioned a tragic fire that claimed his life, but no body was ever found. As Samantha read aloud one evening, the whispers crescendoed, drowning out her voice. The walls trembled, and a door they had never seen before appeared at the end of the hallway. It beckoned them, its presence both terrifying and irresistible. They hesitated, but the house left them no choice. The temperature dropped, and an oppressive darkness engulfed the room, forcing them toward the door. Behind it lay a staircase spiraling downward, deeper than seemed possible. They descended, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, they found a cavernous room lit by flickering candles. The walls were covered in strange symbols, and in the center of the room stood a massive, ornate mirror. Its surface shimmered, reflecting not their images but twisted, nightmarish versions of themselves. The whispers became deafening, their words incomprehensible yet deeply unsettling. The mirror began to ripple, and shadowy figures emerged, their forms indistinct but undeniably human. They reached for Samantha and Ethan, their hands cold as death. Panic surged, and Ethan grabbed Samantha's hand, pulling her back up the stairs. But the house fought them, its walls closing in, its floors shifting beneath their feet. The shadows pursued them, their whispers turning into anguished wails. Samantha clutched the journal, its weight oddly comforting, as they burst into the night air. The house loomed behind them, its windows glowing with an unnatural light. They didn't stop running until they reached the car. As they sped away, Samantha glanced back. The house stood silent and still, but she knew it wasn't over. The whispers had followed them, faint but unmistakable, echoing in the back of her mind. The house that whispers doesn't let go. It waits, patient and hungry, for its next victims. The following weeks were a blur of fear and confusion. The couple's once unshakable bond had been splintered by the ordeal. Samantha became obsessed with the journal, poring over every word in search of answers. Ethan, on the other hand, grew more distant, retreating into himself as the whispers continued to haunt his nights. The more they tried to discuss the house, the sharper their arguments became, as if its influence still lingered over them. One evening, Samantha's curiosity overcame her fear. She decided to contact the local historical society, hoping to uncover more about Victor Holloway and the mansion's past. The old librarian she met there seemed reluctant to talk at first, but after some prodding, she revealed a chilling story. According to local legend, Holloway had performed a ritual meant to trap his soul within the house, binding its energy to his essence. The mansion had become a living entity, sustained by the fears and suffering of those who entered it. Samantha's heart raced as the librarian slid an ancient, leather-bound tome across the table. The book contained detailed accounts of Holloway's rituals, including symbols and incantations eerily similar to those she'd seen in the hidden room. One passage caught her eye. To sever the bond, one must confront the mirror. Only then can the darkness be undone. When she returned home and shared her findings, Ethan was incredulous. "You're talking about fighting a haunted house? That's insane, Sam," he snapped. But deep down, he knew they couldn't go on living like this. The whispers were growing louder, more insistent. They could feel the house's pull, even from miles away. With no other options, the couple decided to face the house one last time. Armed with the journal, the tome, and an iron resolve, they drove back to the mansion. Its silhouette loomed against the darkened sky, a malevolent presence that seemed to swallow the light around it. The moment they crossed the threshold, the whispers enveloped them, more menacing than ever. They retraced their steps to the hidden door, now open and waiting. Descending into the basement, they felt the oppressive weight of the house's gaze. The cavernous room was just as they'd left it, the mirror gleaming ominously at its center. Samantha's hand shook as she opened the tome and began to read the incantation meant to break the bond. The air grew colder with each word, and the shadows around them seemed to writhe in agony. The mirror began to ripple once more, and the twisted reflections of themselves snarled and clawed at the glass. Ethan stepped forward, gripping Samantha's free hand as the room erupted into chaos. The walls trembled, and a deafening roar filled the space. As Samantha spoke the final words, the mirror shattered, its shards scattering like falling stars. The shadows recoiled, their anguished screams fading into silence. The oppressive energy lifted, and for the first time, the house felt empty. They emerged into the dawn's light, the mansion standing quiet behind them. Though they'd survived, they knew they'd never truly escape the memories. The whispers might have been silenced, but the scars they'd left behind would remain forever.